You found your way to Whispers of Crimes, a quiet corner where the shadows of the past are gently told. Here, we speak of real crimes and mysteries, not to shock or scare, but to wonder, to reflect, and maybe to help you fall asleep. So close your eyes, let your thoughts slow down, and come with me into tonight's case. He was supposed to be a reformed man, quietly living in the suburbs of Belgium. Instead, Marc Dutroux was building underground prisons and planning one of the most horrifying crime sprees in European history. Over the course of just 2 years, young girls vanished without a trace while police failed to act despite clear signs, warnings, and even cries behind the walls. What they found inside his house would spark a nationwide movement, shatter trust in the justice system, and uncover a mystery that still raises questions today. Was Marc Dutroux acting alone, or was he protected by powerful people? This is the terrifying truth about Belgium's most hated man. Chapter 1. The Making of a Predator. Marc Dutroux was born on November 6, 1956, in Ixelles, Belgium. He grew up in a turbulent household where abuse, neglect, and a lack of emotional support shaped his early personality. His parents, both teachers, divorced when he was a teenager. Dutroux's delinquency began shortly after, including theft and violent behavior. By the time he reached his 20s, Dutroux had developed a long rap sheet involving car theft, assault, and fraud. He also worked various low-skill jobs, but was consistently in legal trouble. By the early 1980s, Dutroux had already shown disturbing signs of violent sexual tendencies. In 1986, he was convicted for the kidnapping and rape of 5 young girls, some as young as 11. He was sentenced to 13 years in prison, but was released in just 3 years, due to good behavior and prison overcrowding, a decision that would prove catastrophic for Belgium. Chapter 2. The double life and construction of horror. After his early release in 1992, Marc Dutroux used the opportunity to reinvent himself, not as a reformed man, but as a more dangerous predator. He portrayed himself as a handyman and electrician, living modestly with his wife, Michelle Martin, and their children. Yet underneath that facade, he was building hidden chambers, cages, and underground bunkers in his homes across Belgium. He financed his lifestyle through a mix of car theft and social welfare fraud, all while preparing his properties as prisons for young girls. Michelle Martin was not only complicit, but allegedly helped him drug and imprison victims. Dutroux also had hired help to accomplices, Michelle Liliever and Bernard Weinstein, both of whom were involved in procuring and detaining the victims. By the mid-90s, Dutroux had turned several homes into private torture dungeons. Chapter 3. The Abductions and Murders between 1995 and 1996. Dutroux abducted several young girls, all between the ages of 8 and 19. Among them were Julie Leon and Melissa Russo, abducted in June 1995 while playing near a bridge in Grace Hollow, and Marshall and Eve Lambrechts, abducted in August 1995 while on vacation in Ostend. Sabine Dardenne, abducted in May 1996 on her way to school. Letitia Delhaz, abducted in August 1996 from a swimming pool in Bertrix. The horror escalated as Julie and Melissa were imprisoned in a concealed basement for months, eventually dying of starvation while Dutroux was temporarily in jail for car theft. Anne and Aves were drugged, raped, and eventually buried alive. When Dutroux feared his accomplice Bernard Weinstein might betray him, he drugged him and buried him alive too. Chapter 4. The Discovery and Rescue. On August 15, 1996, after a tip from a former accomplice, Belgian police finally raided Dutroux's house in Marchinelle. In the basement, they discovered Sabine Dardenne and Letitia Delhaz, alive but severely traumatized. Dutroux, Michelle Martin, and Michelle Lelièvre were arrested. The subsequent investigation uncovered shallow graves in Dutroux's garden and another of his properties, where the bodies of Julie, Melissa, and Aefchen and Weinstein were found. Belgium was shocked not only by the extent of the crimes, but also by how many opportunities authorities missed to stop Dutroux earlier. Evidence revealed that police had searched Dutroux's house twice in 1995 and 1996, but failed to find the hidden rooms. A local locksmith even testified he heard cries for help during one of the raids, but his warnings were ignored. A disturbing pattern of police incompetence or possible complicity began to emerge. Chapter 5: National Outrage and the White March. The Dutroux case sparked unprecedented national outrage. Citizens took to the streets in what became known as the White March in October 1996. Over 300,000 Belgians marched through Brussels, demanding justice, transparency, and a total reform of the judicial and police systems. The public's fury was fueled by mounting evidence of systemic failures. Dutroux was on a government watch list, yet managed to elude authorities. There were suspicions, never conclusively proven, that he was part of a wider pedophile network with powerful connections. Key evidence disappeared, officials were fired, and some witnesses died under suspicious circumstances. The phrase, "the lost children of Belgium," became a national wound. Belgium's justice system came under intense scrutiny. Trust in institutions eroded as people speculated about the possible cover-ups, corruption, and even protection of Dutroux by higher powers. Chapter 6: The Trial and Its Controversies. It took 8 years for the case to finally go to trial, which began in 2004 in Arlon, Belgium. By then, the case had ballooned into a symbol of institutional failure. Dutroux remained defiant throughout the trial, often contradicting himself and blaming his accomplices. He admitted to kidnapping, but denied murdering any of the girls, claiming he was part of a larger ring and that others were responsible for the killings. His ex-wife, Michelle Martin, testified that she was too afraid to oppose him, but admitted to letting the girls starve, claiming she was following his orders. She received 30 years in prison, but was controversially released on parole in 2012, which reignited public fury. Michelle Lelièvre was sentenced to 25 years, while Dutroux was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dutroux requested parole in 2019, claiming he was no longer a danger. His request was denied, and he remains imprisoned to this day in a high-security facility. Chapter 7: Legal Aftermath and Psychological Profile. The Dutroux case permanently altered Belgium's legal and law enforcement systems. In its wake, reforms included better coordination between police forces, digitized databases, and stricter parole guidelines. A parliamentary commission was formed to investigate the failings, and dozens of police officers, magistrates, and officials were disciplined or dismissed. Psychologists who studied Dutroux described him as a textbook psychopath, manipulative, remorseless, and narcissistic. His crimes, however, were far from impulsive. They were calculated, methodical, and enabled by an apparent network of enablers, or, at the very least, staggering institutional incompetence. To this day, many Belgians believe the full truth behind Dutroux's crimes has never been revealed. The question that haunts Belgium is not only what Dutroux did, but how he got away with it for so long, and who else might have been involved and protected. That's all for tonight's story. Another thread in the web of true crime, quietly unraveling as the night goes on. If you're still with me, thanks for listening. And if sleep has already taken you, may your dreams be peaceful and your mind at ease. I'll be here next time by the fire with another story waiting to be told. Good night, and don't forget to lock your doors.